In my previous life, the antique bracelet my mother left me was stolen by my stepsister. My scumbag father, to squeeze every last bit of value from me, handed me over to a wealthy rapist for a blind date. And in the second year of the apocalypse, I died miserably in a blizzard. Only after death did I learn that the antique bracelet taken by my stepsister contained a massive space inside. After driving me away, my scumbag father moved into the luxurious penthouse in the city center that my mother had left me, living with his mistress and stepsister, feasting and living comfortably during the apocalypse, while watching me get thrown into the blizzard by the wealthy heir to die a tragic death. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the pre-apocalyptic days when my scumbag father forced me into blind dates. So I immediately beat up the rapist. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. I took back the antique bracelet before anyone else could. I reclaimed the downtown property my mother left for me, while my scumbag father, his mistress, and their illegitimate daughter struggled to survive. I was enjoying hot pot in my top floor safe room. Just moments ago, I was still in the freezing blizzard, covered in gruesome wounds, frozen to death in the snowstorm from excessive blood loss. The next instant, my soul drifted through the white expanse of the sky, eventually floating into the penthouse safe room at the city center. This apartment was bought for me by my mother before she passed away. Yet now, it's been taken over by my scumbag father, his mistress, and their illegitimate daughter. On their massive TV screen, they're live streaming the footage of me dying in the blizzard. Maggie, that little bitch is finally dead. Honey, you can go demand a huge amount of supplies from that rapist second-generation rich kid now. After all, he killed your daughter. Mom, Dad, come eat some steak. We've got so much steak in the storage space it's overflowing. After the apocalypse, while I was being tortured and murdered by that rapist, my scumbag father and his mistress who stole my resources were living it up in the penthouse safe room, feasting on delicacies. Watching them mock and laugh over my lifeless body, I was consumed by overwhelming hatred and charged straight at them. Yet it was all in vain. I could only helplessly pass through their bodies before being pushed back to the same spot by an invisible force. The violent impact made me clearly see the familiar antique bracelet on the wrist of my scumbag father's illegitimate daughter. It was the most precious item from the jewelry box my mother left me after her passing. Yet now it adorned Lucy's wrist. Through her wrist, I saw the enormous hidden space behind her. If it weren't for this bracelet her mother left behind, which Dad hid in the villa, we might not be living such a good life now. What does it matter if this house is under her name? Who cares about the law after the apocalypse? Besides, that bitch doesn't even know we've already moved in. Maggie is just a fool. She died without ever knowing we took her things. And she ended up dying so miserably. I listened to the truth from their mouths, and all that remained in my heart was endless despair. If there is an afterlife, I will make sure they die without a place to be buried. I roared and charged toward Lucy's bracelet on her wrist, until a single tear of blood fell from my eye onto that bracelet. A blinding flash of light passed, and I was sucked into another space by that bracelet. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the time before the apocalypse. In a daze, I heard a familiar voice. My parents really like you. Once we're married, you won't need to work. Our family will give you a large sum of money every month. Just focus on staying home and having children. If you're with me, all you'll have to do is live a good life. But I have many women outside, and you better not interfere. After all, giving you the status of the official wife is already a charity. In the Western restaurant, the man sitting across from me leered at my neckline with a lascivious gaze, his words vulgar and foul. I looked at Liam's greasy face, feeling a wave of nausea rise in my throat. In my past life, I was tricked by my scumbag father into this blind date and never had any interest in Liam, this foul legal scumbag. But after the apocalypse arrived, my father teamed up with his mistress to break my legs and directly delivered me to the nouveau riche Anderson family. It was from then on that I endured 2 years of living hell. Liam, Why aren't you dead yet? You scourge. I stared coldly at him, my tone leaving no room for courtesy, at least for now. The fat-headed Liam was no match for a boxing champion like me. Liam's greasy, sinister smile instantly twisted as his bloated face contorted with rage, glaring at me. Maggie, you bitch. Are you looking for death? He raised his hand, immediately trying to hit me. With a cold expression, I directly bent his fingers backward with force. Ah! Liam grabbed the porcelain plate with the steak, about to smash it into my face. 2 years into the apocalypse. Though my legs were broken, the strength and reflexes in my hands had long been honed from enduring his abuse. I swung a fist to deflect the porcelain plate he hurled at me and kicked him to the ground. Bang! Liam turned pale with pain, clutching his phone as he tried to flee. His face darkened as he spat out a threat. Maggie, just you wait. If I don't destroy your family. My gaze froze on the burning candlestick. In my past life, Liam, that beast, would always drip the red-hot candlestick wax onto my arms to satisfy his perverse desires. Did I say you could leave? I grabbed that candlestick and smashed it directly onto him. Oh, I was wrong. Maggie, you're insane. I was wrong. Please, help me. I swung my fist hard and punched him in the face. Liam, if you dare call the police, I'll beat you up every time I see you. Liam's wails drew quite a crowd of onlookers. Before the waiter arrived with hotel security, I hurriedly left. There are only 3 days left before the apocalypse arrives. My most urgent task now is to retrieve the bracelet stolen from me in my previous life and that top-floor safe house in the city center. Suddenly returning to this real, orderly world before the apocalypse, I even felt a strange sense of unfamiliarity. It felt like an unreal dream. The chaotic and evil society after the apocalypse had long turned me into a cold and numb person. I returned to my scumbag father's villa in City B and smoothly unlocked the front door with my fingerprint. At this hour, the only one in the family's villa was Lucy. Seeing me suddenly appear, her eyes were filled with confusion and resentment. Sister, didn't Dad say you were on a blind date with the eldest son of the wealthy Anderson family today? I walked straight past her and headed to the second-floor Marquess master bedroom. Lucy followed behind me, her tone dripping with schadenfreude. Sister, I heard from Dad that Liam has many houses in his family. If you marry him, you'll live a life of luxury forever. I snorted coldly and turned to glare at her. Since you like it so much, why don't you marry him instead? Lucy's hypocritical expression instantly changed as she frowned and retorted. How can that be? That's the marriage partner Dad chose for you. You and Liam are the perfect match. I lowered my head, watching her stand at the corner of the staircase. The diamond necklace around her neck made my eyes sting with pain. That necklace was a gift my mother bought for my 18th birthday at an auction in Europe before she passed away. Lucy, come upstairs. I waved my hand nonchalantly, watching her approach me. Snap. Before she could react, I slapped her across the face without hesitation. Lucy froze in place, her face instantly flushing red. Maggie, you bitch. How dare you hit me? She screamed in rage, but I tightly restrained her flailing hands and yanked off that diamond necklace. Oh, do you have a death wish? How dare you snatch my necklace? She struggled against my hand that was pinning hers down, lunging forward to snatch the necklace back from my grip. Whose necklace is this really? Think carefully before you answer. Snap. As she charged at me again, I swiftly delivered another harsh slap across the opposite side of her face. In an instant, Lucy's already puffy square face swelled up red and high. It looked just like an ugly pig's head. Seen this way, she and Liam were truly a perfect match. She wanted to howl again, but I directly pulled out Mark's fishing line and tied her up in place. Shut up. My fierce glare made Lucy tremble all over. You're not that bitch, Maggie. You must be insane. She was tied to the staircase on the second floor, screaming hysterically. I couldn't be bothered to deal with her anymore and went straight into Marcus' bedroom, finding the safe he had hidden in the secret compartment. The safe's combination was something my wicked stepmother from my previous life had revealed herself. After she seized the priceless jewelry my mother left me. Fortunately, Mark set the combination to my birthday. Otherwise, I would never have managed to transfer so many jewels so smoothly. The person-sized safe was successfully opened. What lay inside left me utterly stunned. Dozens of property deeds from City B, and every single one is under my name. I looked at the property addresses listed. They were all prime downtown properties my mother had purchased while she was alive. There were also some diamond necklaces and jade jewelry set aside separately, each of exceptional quality, items that could fetch vast amounts of supplies in the post-apocalyptic world to come. These pieces of jewelry were all heirlooms passed down from my mother's family. I opened the black suitcase I had brought and dumped everything from the safe into it without hesitation. Among the pile of jewelry, I spotted the bracelet that had been on Lucy's wrist in my previous life. Its glow was distinctly different, a soft green light tinged with warmth. "Maggie, what are you doing?" Lucy finally broke free with the help of the nanny downstairs, and the moment she rushed in and saw what I was holding, she started screaming. I couldn't even be bothered to lift my head, my hands continuously packing the contents of the safe into a specially designed black suitcase. When I saw the property deed for this villa under my scumbag father Mark's name, my gaze paused, and I took it without hesitation. This villa is under both mine and Mark's names. Back when Mark first made his fortune relying on my mother's family, this was the first villa he bought, and my mother insisted on adding my name to the deed at the time. There are only 3 days left before the apocalypse arrives. If I don't make them homeless within these 3 days, my surname isn't Wilson. Lucy stared intently at the bracelet I had just put on my wrist. She rushed over angrily, grabbing my wrist and trying to make me take it off, as if by some unseen force. She seemed to know that bracelet was very important to her. Her gaze at me was filled with panic and unease. "Maggie, you're stealing. If you don't stop right now, I'm calling the police." I carried out the last few dozen gold bars from the safe and turned to see her distorted expression. "Everything I'm taking belongs to me. Calling the police won't do you any good." Lucy, her expression changed instantly as she looked at me in disbelief. "How did you know?" She knew everything I said was true. All the items in this safe were under my name. In my previous life, had I not lingered as a ghost in their safe house after my tragic death, I would never have uncovered these secrets. Because after my scumbag father claimed there was nothing under my name following my mother's accidental car crash death, even the jewelry I lost, he said was buried with her as part of the funeral arrangements. Looking back now, Mark was nothing but a complete bastard, dragging a fully packed suitcase behind me. I left under the stunned gazes of 2 nannies downstairs. When I left, I drove away with Mark's sports car worth tens of millions. Pausing for a moment, I glanced at the dozen or so top-tier luxury cars remaining in the garage. In a couple of days, after mortgaging this villa of my scumbag father to the loan sharks, I must find time to come back and take everything. That same day, I moved into the most secure penthouse in the city center, dragging my suitcase behind me. Looking at the top-tier anti-theft door gifted by the developer, I didn't hesitate for a second. I went to the city's largest security and anti-theft door market and found a newly developed door with the highest thickness and defensive capabilities. At the same time, I contacted the largest real estate agency in City B and sold off over a dozen properties and commercial storefronts under my name at 20% below market price. "Miss Maggie, the total transaction price for these properties is $600 million, and the funds have been wired to your account." Looking at the endless digits in my bank account, the unease in my heart finally eased a little. In the apocalypse, the most crucial thing is supplies. Endless supplies. I watched as the construction crew installed the brand new security door. Just as I was about to leave the villa for the largest vegetable wholesale market in the neighboring city, I encountered a few uninvited guests. Mark showed up with Natalie and Lucy in tow. In the afternoon, when he returned to the villa and saw the emptied safe, he nearly had a heart attack. If it weren't for Lucy standing by with an oxygen tank, that scumbag father might have kicked the bucket on the spot. Now when he sees me, The look in his eyes is practically trying to tear me apart. Well, it makes sense. A top-tier social climber who spent his whole life scheming, only to see what little wealth he had vanish overnight. Of course he'd go mad. Maggie, are you trying to get yourself killed? He charged at me furiously, flanked by several bodyguards. How dare you steal from the house? I should have strangled you the moment you were born. You wretched thing. Standing behind him, Lucy began weeping with pearly tears streaming down her face. Sister, you took everything from the house. That was Dad's lifelong savings. And you stole it all. You nearly made Dad pass out today. Her face, still swollen from the beating I gave her that afternoon, looked both pitiful and ridiculous. I glared coldly at Lucy and shook my fist. Lucy, didn't this afternoon teach you to keep your mouth shut? I only took what belongs to me. How can that be called stealing? Excellent. Since they've come knocking, I won't let these beasts off the hook today. Natalie spoke in a deliberately gentle tone, but the greed on her face was unmistakable. I know you dislike me, but after all, he is your biological father. What you've done, has truly broken his heart. Besides, Lucy is innocent too. Not only did you steal from the family, but you also beat your sister like this. It's only because we still consider you family that we haven't called the police yet. You're just a girl, yet you've stolen so much from the family. You must have been tricked by some man outside. Your father and I aren't angry with you. Just come home with us quietly. You wouldn't want your dad to call the police and have you arrested, would you? Natalie spoke in a soft yet chilling tone, her gaze icy enough to freeze my bones, like a venomous snake coiling tightly around its prey. They appeared right during the evening rush hour in the neighborhood, and the residents who heard the commotion all looked at me with indignation. My God, this girl looks decent, but not only did she steal from her own family, she nearly drove her own father to death. What a misfortune to raise such a daughter. Yeah, to think we have such thieves in our neighborhood. It really drags down the whole place. Her sister is so pitiful too, beaten up like that. That girl really went all out. If it were me, I'd definitely call the police. A daughter like that is just a menace to society. That father is still too kind. Natalie is as good as ever at stirring up public opinion. Clearly, it's her and that scumbag father who seized what was rightfully mine. And now I'm the shameless thief. The scumbag father came at me with his bodyguards in tow. Maggie, if you don't hand over those property deeds today, I swear I'll have you sent to the police station. He immediately grabbed my wrist, trying to slap me. I turned my face to dodge, then kicked away a bodyguard who was trying to restrain me from behind. Bang! The bodyguard was knocked down by my kick, looking at me in disbelief. Even I didn't expect that after returning in this life. My strength would be so great. Mark, all those property deeds are in my name. Stop making false accusations here. And the jewelry in your safe. They were all left to me by my mother before she died. What right do you have to come asking me for them? Natalie darkened her expression, unable to hold back any longer. Maggie, what you took was all the savings your father and I have accumulated over the years. When did your mother ever give them to you? She's been dead for years. If she had left anything for you, she would have given it to you long ago. How could it still be in our house? Maggie, you wretched beast. If you don't hand over those things today, I swear I'll beat you to death. Mark, furious and red-eyed, stubbornly raised his hand to slap me again. I dodged to the side and grabbed Natalie, slapping her instead. Snap! Natalie was completely stunned after I slapped her across the face. When she finally came to her senses, clutching her swollen cheek, she screamed at me. Oh, Mark, your daughter is out of control. Now she's even hitting her elders. Can't you learn to shut up? I grabbed her hair and slapped her again with the back of my hand. You're just a homewrecker who climbed your way up. What gives you the right to call yourself my elder? Now Natalie is completely subdued. This chaotic scene reminds me of my previous life. When the apocalypse first arrived, Mark's company went bankrupt overnight. Back then, I also ruined that arranged marriage with Liam. He barged into my rented apartment downtown with several bodyguards and directly had my legs broken. Then he couldn't wait to deliver me to the wealthy Anderson family. That very day, he exchanged me for the first massive batch of post-apocalyptic supplies. With the money from Liam, he purchased large quantities of grain and vegetables from the neighboring city. At that time, Natalie looked down at me from her high horse as I lay on the ground with broken legs, wailing helplessly. "Maggie, you should be grateful. Your father is sending you to live a good life. The Anderson family is so wealthy, and in these chaotic times, you might even marry into fortune." She and Lucy stepped on my broken legs, their faces filled with triumphant revenge. Reborn into this life. As I once again witnessed the ugly faces of these people, an intense killing intent surged within me. I forcefully suppressed my mood, constantly reminding myself, the apocalypse hasn't arrived yet. Killing is illegal now. Mark's remaining 3 bodyguards were still present. At his command, "Catch this troublemaker. Whoever gets her first gets 10,000 yuan. Several people instantly rushed toward me. The surrounding crowd exclaimed, "A heartless daughter like her deserves to be taught a lesson." "That's right. We support you in disciplining your child. If we really can't get it back, we'll help you call the police." Several bodyguards charged straight at me, so I grabbed a fire extinguisher from the green belt nearby and hurled it at them. Bang! My strength was astonishingly great now. With just one swing, the first bodyguard who came at me instantly crumpled to the ground, howling in pain. "Ah, help! Save me! It hurts so much." The remaining 2 men looked at me with eyes full of fear, standing frozen in place, not daring to move. Mark fumed, his face flushed with rage as he roared at them. "Get her! If I don't break this bastard's legs today, I won't let her off." Without hesitation, I immediately stepped forward and kicked each of the 2 bodyguards. "Get lost if you don't want to die." I stomped down, and both of them looked at me in horror. "Impossible. How could you have such strength?" Now even Mark noticed something was off. His face instantly turned deathly pale. "Monster. You're just like your dead uncle. Both freaks. Neither of you is human." My gaze paused. It was the first time I'd heard him mention my mother's family. Could my uncle also possess such immense strength? Natalie and Lucy stared at me, their eyes filled with terror, clinging to each other and trembling, not daring to utter another word to me. Dragging the fire extinguisher in my hand, I walked straight toward Mark. His hands trembled uncontrollably with fear, his voice frantic. "I'm calling the police. Maggie, you monster. I'll have you locked up in jail." "Fine. Let's see whether the police arrest you. The thief who stole dozens of my diamond and jewelry pieces. Or me." I leaned close to his ear, my tone venomous. "Mark, don't forget, all the jewelry my mother left me before she died is worth hundreds of millions combined. And those pieces were notarized and recorded, with my name as the legal owner. Tell me, if the police find out it was you who smuggled and sold it, who do you think will go to jail first? You or me?" I clearly saw his pupils tremble, his lips tightly clenched, not daring to even breathe. "You. How did you know?" I gave him a cold stare, turned around, and left with these words, "Get out of here with all your people, or don't blame me for being rude." Mark trembled in fear, no longer daring to demand the things I took away today. "Let's go. We're going home." He turned and left, leaving behind Natalie and Lucy staring at me resentfully. "Mark, how dare you? Just like that. You're giving all these things to this little bitch." "Dad, Maggie took my favorite emerald bracelet. You said you'd definitely get it back for me." The scumbag father was furious. "I told you to leave. Can't you understand human language?" Mark's angry rebuke instantly silenced Natalie and her mother, who had intended to keep arguing. The aunties who had just been standing in the crowd defending Natalie were so frightened after seeing me take down several burly men barehanded that they covered their mouths and left. They could also see that I was only taking what was rightfully mine, while Mark and his stepmother Natalie were shamelessly trying to snatch it away openly. By the time the property manager arrived with the neighborhood security team, Mark and his group had already slunk away in disgrace. I registered the faces of several people, and in the following days, they appeared directly in this neighborhood again. There are still 3 days left. After the apocalypse arrives, the property management will have long become a mere formality. As long as I can keep them out of my sight for these few days, that's enough. 3 days later, my top-tier security door will naturally keep these people out. That night, wearing the antique bracelet, I drove overnight to the vegetable market in the neighboring city. Besides this place, I also went to the largest slaughterhouse in the suburbs of City B. Spent $20 million to purchase the first batch of supplies. Due to not making reservations in advance, I could only procure a small amount of meat on the first day. Early the next morning, I went directly to the largest warehouse supermarket in City B and bought millions worth of available stock of meat and seafood. After all the purchased supplies were delivered to the only factory warehouse under my name that hadn't been sold, I opened the antique space and collected all the supplies inside. The moment I retrieved this bracelet, I cut my finger and soaked it in blood. By the afternoon of the first day, the space was activated. After completing the first batch of supply purchases, I took Mark and Natalie to the largest loan sharking mortgage office with the property deed of the villa they currently live in, securing a loan at a low price of $5 million. A villa originally worth $30 million was suddenly mortgaged for only $5 million. Those in the loan sharking business understood the disputes behind such a deal. I made only one demand: to evict all the squatters from the villa. That afternoon, my phone was suddenly bombarded with calls from Mark and Natalie. I stood in the nation's largest seafood market, calmly blocked their numbers, and then turned off my phone. This is just the beginning. In my past life, not only did you kick me out of the house before the apocalypse, but you also threw me back into the hell of the Anderson family when I begged for help multiple times. Can't handle it now. Liam, that bastard. I won't let him off the hook. After I beat him to a pulp during our blind date at the Western restaurant, he deliberately sought revenge by hiring several groups of thugs to ambush me outside my neighborhood. I struck a deal with a sales manager at the seafood market for $200 million worth of premium seafood, demanding it be airlifted to the country overnight. He turned around and headed back to the neighborhood with the chainsaw he had just bought. There was only 1 day left before the apocalypse. As long as Liam shows up tomorrow night, I'll make sure he leaves with a broken leg. By then, a massive typhoon capable of devastating the entire city would strike, leaving countless people homeless. With social order already collapsing, no one would care about a rich second-generation heir with a sawn-off leg. On the third and final day, the 3 batches of supplies I had purchased were all neatly transported to the factory warehouse. Seeing the remaining $200 million in my card, I took the money directly to the largest jewelry auction house. Over these 2 days, thousands of tons of supplies flooded into the space, and I was initially quite worried about the limited usable area inside. But that day Mark came with people to cause trouble, and just to be safe, I still put all the jewelry I took from the safe into the space. Billions worth of top-tier jewelry vanished into thin air the moment it entered the space. But what followed was an explosive expansion of the spatial area. In my previous life, the space behind Lucy I saw was only the size of a 2-story villa. But now, nourished by all the jewelry, the space in my hands has grown to the size of 10 football fields. That's why this auction. I'm here exclusively for the finest jade and jewelry. As soon as I entered the auction seating area, I saw Mark standing beside Liam with an ingratiating smile, and Lucy standing behind Liam, covered in bruises. It seems that after I drove him out of the house in this lifetime, Mark still managed to latch on to the nouveau riche Anderson family. But this time, what he sacrificed was his beloved illegitimate daughter, whom he had doted on for over a decade. I let out a cold laugh and walked straight past them. Maggie. Lucy was the first to call out to me. Her eyes were filled with hatred as she glared at me fiercely. Mark snapped to his senses and rushed toward me. Maggie, you've grown bold, haven't you? How dare you mortgage my house to loan sharks? He rushed over, his eyes fierce and menacing as they locked onto me. I looked at the dark circles under his eyes, evidence of the torment he'd endured these past 2 days, and felt a surge of satisfaction. "What's the matter? Didn't you find someone to take the fall for you?" I stepped past him, eager to check out today's auction items first. Mark wasn't planning to let me go. Grabbing my clothes and ready to take action, I turned around, looking at him calmly. "Have you forgotten? I'm not exactly the type who respects elders and cherishes children." I waved my fist at him as a warning. He instinctively let go of my sleeve, a flash of fear flickering in his eyes. "I don't care. You must get the villa back for me today." "Why should I?" Mark was left speechless by my counter-question. "Because I'm your biological father. If you don't return the house to me today, believe me, you won't be able to walk out that door." The auction was about to begin. As I watched that top-grade jade pendant being presented on the display platform, my eyes darkened. The moment that jade pendant appeared, the jade bracelet in my hand began to tremble. I could clearly feel the effect it was having on the bracelet. "The starting bid is 80 million. I narrowed my eyes and said in a deep voice, "Mark, if you want to get your villa back, you'll have to return everything you've scammed from me over the years. All the inheritance my mother left me." I knew he couldn't produce it. In the previous life, before the apocalypse, he had already racked up hundreds of millions in gambling debts at overseas casinos. All the assets he smuggled out and sold ended up in foreign casinos. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been left homeless after their villa was confiscated. As for the cars in the garage, I had already taken them into my space the very night the villa was sealed off. Mark still thinks they were repossessed by the mafia. No sooner had I finished speaking than he began to roar impatiently. "In your dreams. Those things are all mine. If you don't hand them over today, I'll marry you off to Liam." Standing nearby, Liam suddenly spoke up. "Father-in-law, I only like beauties with broken legs. I don't fancy thorny roses like Maggie." He held himself with an air of arrogance, his eyes wandering over my dress. "Broken leg. Perfect. I happen to like crippled animals too. Come at me if you dare." Our argument caught the attention of the auction organizers. Before Mark could act out again, several special security personnel appeared behind him and took control of the situation. He didn't dare to speak again. After all, he was only able to attend this auction today by leveraging Liam's family connections. I turned and walked straight to the auction seats. The auction began, and the bidding for the first round of jade pendants had already reached 150 million. I suppressed the burning sensation in my wrist and calmly bid 180 million. Liam suddenly went wild like a rabid dog, biting at my bid. I offered 200 million, and he immediately raised it to 250 million. Even in the apocalypse of the previous life, the Anderson family still held assets worth billions. If we're going to play, let's go big. After all, once tomorrow passes and the apocalypse arrives, I'll have plenty of chances to reclaim this jade pendant. Given a second life, what he owes me from the past should be repaid with interest. I symbolically raised the bid to 1 billion, turning to face Liam behind him. He silently taunted, "Coward, dare to follow." Furious, he turned and slapped Lucy beside him. "Bitch, you and your sister are both bitches." Under Lucy's exposed dress were terrifying scars, her red eyes glaring at me fiercely. He raised his hand and directly increased the bid to 2 billion. My goal has been achieved. Stopping the bidding, I watched coldly as Liam, his face livid, was taken by the auction house to swipe his card like a sucker. 2 billion. For the current Anderson family, this was no small sum, at least after the apocalypse. The